Futaba's whole setup seems way more to the speed for Taiyo. I mean, he's not like some super genius like tactician, but he's definitely smarter than I'd say your average shonen main character. He seems just to be about regular intelligence. Kind of like reminds me of like Ichigo, where he's not like what's the Doctor Stone main character's name? How am I forgetting that off the top of my head? Oh, Senku. He's not like Senku where he's like a genius, and he's not like Luffy or Goku where he's just dead in there. Like no like little to no thoughts like go around their heads. Whereas with someone I guess closer to Ichigo, he's at least got a regular set of intelligence. And this is a scenario that they're in. Obviously, it's a little bit different because they're at like a problem solving thing with a very high level spy. I actually really wonder, like, in terms of the grand scheme of things, like all the spies, if if Futaba and Kyochiro are like where they sit at, are like they in the top 10, or maybe there's just people that are way above them because they're strong, and obviously the Yozakura family is like a big deal, but they're not as experienced as say like when you get really high up there with like certain people. I would assume like we've seen Bon and what's the dad's name, Momo, or I think his name is spelled something like that. Like they're way more powerful. Granted, as far as we know, they're like top people in the series. We just don't know how many people are between them and the rest of the family. That's just something I wanted to note at before we get to this chapter. But Taiyo like seems to have figured out there's like some steps to it. It was more about like the method that you have to kind of get past this, and Futaba's like saying how it's all you have to do is kind of like do the whole ceremony thing that she was doing in reverse, and that would kind of undo it. It kind of like diffuse the energy she put in there. She says it's kind of like if you were hacking into something or locking something. And we actually get to a majority of the chapter being more about a flashback, but from the context of flashback, it's less about the flashback itself and really what it kind of like is supposed to direct Taiyo's existence towards versus Misumi and then the rest of the family kind of thing. Not like versus, but rather where he sits in line with the Yozakura family because of the interactions with Misumi. Like you have like the very beginning portions, and at the start it's like he's just like somebody that she would hang out with at school, and then they kind of walk home together, and then there's you see him a couple years later, and there's like a point where he is actually really weird. Taiyo with like shorter hair, like oddly enough, looks way different. I know he's got like a little bit of other like features to him, like he's got like his scar and stuff, but like that shorter hair, it's like when I saw Naruto when he got that haircut after like the near the end of the series, like right in the time skip when he got to like Boruto and stuff. He had that short hair. It's not that different of a hairstyle shift, but it's just weird seeing like their hair trimmed back. But Taiyo's like shown up. I guess that Musumi got in like an argument with some people at school the previous day, and he showed up to walk her to school in case then they wanted to cause more trouble. And even see further of like after the incident with his family. And I actually did like how there was parts in the backstory as well, further kind of like showing his previous kind of like the way that he talked about like his brother. He'd say like his brother's like annoying and stuff, but obviously like after the point of his parents and brother dying, it just kind of like set up probably in his head a kind of like not prerequisite, but kind of just like the just like where he ties in the backstory where he's gonna like feel about his brother, and probably stuff like that is gonna bother him the way that he would say that, and then he doesn't have him anymore kind of thing. But from what Futaba is really kind of like going off of this, it's that like every single day Musumi was like always next to Taiyo and vice versa, and they both kind of like leaned on each other but also helped the other one kind of move forward. It's on like a mutual symbiotic nature between the two of them and how they interacted that kind of helped the other one just continue in life and just kind of like take further steps forward. There's even a point where she sees Kyochiro have a smile on his face over like all this, and it was like it's one of the things I've mentioned towards my take on the series. The first time I read it, Kyochiro actually really bothered me. I was not a fan of his character whatsoever, because at the start of the series I wasn't sure if it was going to be more of a gag series or if it was going to be more of a serious series. And once we got to a point where it was clear that the series was getting more serious, and we still had Kyochiro, like, borderline, like, he could have killed Taiyo so many times at the beginning of the series, and it's not like Taiyo had the powers and, like, skills and abilities to really kind of dodge past him. It was more of just kind of like, you know, stuff in the series, and they would make it seem more kind of like gag moments. But I'm just, every time I'm looking at him, it's like, he's essentially, like, on the border of murdering his little sister's boyfriend, who was like one of the only things in life that like really made her like really happy. And I was like, could you imagine if he got through with it and then he just kind of went home and is like, oh yeah, she's dead, or he's dead, sorry. That would have probably like mentally just like demolished her, especially when we're at where we're at right now in the series. It's like, yeah, she would have just like had a complete mental collapse if some like if he went through with that. They started coughing like partway into that, because it was just like, it's just weird to think about, and like really when you see like where it could result in, and not even talking about like the series itself, like would it be different without Taiyo, but really just like how quickly it would Sumi would have just, she would have had no real reason to keep going if Taiyo just like got eradicated like that. And there's like a really nice moment when he's doing the whole like, you know, thank you for the tea, like it's more of like him being, oh yeah, cool about whatever this part is. But for Futaba, like, she's a little bit in tears because she's happy to see where Taiyo has really kind of like connected and influenced her family. I would assume outside of like spouses and eventual like, you know, in-laws and stuff with their family, they don't get like a lot of interactions outside of their own family. Like, even like 10, you know, plus years from now within the series, I would assume, you know, they'll like accumulate some friends, like there's some people in there, but I would assume that the people that are primarily going to be like in the house and stuff are going to end up just being people who are like directly related to family. Kind of like how like each of the people that were, you know, married to one of the heads have the blooming power. Like, it's just something that is going to be like, it's going to be tied to any of them that get too close to the family, like anybody who's got like a permanent kind of spot with them. And I would assume it's not just going to be Taiyo, maybe not getting the blooming power, but I would assume anybody that ends up kind of like getting with any of the main family members is going to kind of be in that directly like tied down spot. But then at the end of the chapter, we got Kyochiro kind of just setting up, like tying all these guys up, pulling them down in like this big open area with his exam on the way. I really want to see what his is going to be, because his is supposed to be like in the mine, so I want to know what kind of like weird stuff he's going to do with these guys. Hopefully something like way more creepy. But anyway, other than that though, comment below, thumbs up the video, friend the like button, subscribe button, check out my other videos. But than that, I appreciate everybody's already subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.